Hey, welcome back to the SBP Podcast Mobile Filmmaking. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and you're listening to episode 126. That's so much fun in this conversation that's coming up in this episode. I can't just thinking about it. Listen, our guests in this episode are the Art School Dropouts company, the people who run this, and they are Stephanie, Pham, and Joey Min. They're shooting a web series with the iPhone, and it's all live action. I'm talking about swords and, all kinds of great stuff. And they use great sound effects. Their audio is impeccable. Their video is fantastic. Yeah, it's actually doable. Also, I'd like to announce that the dates for next year's film festival, they've been set since 2012, every year, the very last weekend of April. So April 28th, 29th, and 30th, 2023, mark your calendars, and that's the date. Start making your plans to come on down to San Diego, beautiful San Diego, and enjoy this wonderful celebration where we bring the global mobile filmmaking community together to celebrate, to support, and to learn from each other and inspire each other, and hopefully inspire more San Diegans to make movies with their phones. Hey, Joey, and hey, Stephanie. How are you guys doing?
Hey, we're doing pretty good. Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. How's the Art School Dropouts?
Always working.
Always working.
Always
right?
filming.
Always filming. I am so happy to share with our audience that you guys are here today. What I want to discuss with you is something that you surprised me with. We met on Twitter. I should let our listeners know that. But we met on Twitter because these guys made not a movie, but I mean, you've made movies, but they've made a web series. And I think you introduced us to episode 1. Hey guys, you can film this with an iPhone. And I was very impressed. And we're going to share that link with everyone so that they see it. But first, before we talk about that, because it really is an impressive piece of work, and I'm talking video, audio, the colors, the quality of the film, everything. So let's get right down to it, and let's introduce Joey and Stephanie to you. Let's start with Stephanie. Stephanie, say hello and a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Hey guys, so my name is Stephanie. I actually originally was a model. I'm an actress, but in terms of the Art School Dropouts front, I handle a lot of the business end of things, and I guess a lot of like the production stuff in terms of organizing and scheduling. But yeah, Joy is actually the, I guess, founder of Art School Dropouts.
Nice.
But yeah, so if you guys don't know who we are, I guess I should also introduce like Art School Dropouts. So we are filmmakers on YouTube, and we specialize in martial arts action comedy. And yeah, we make content pretty much all the time.
Every day.
A lot. Yeah.
Yeah. Joey, it's your turn. Share.
Hi, I'm Joey Min. I am the creative head, I guess, since Steph said that, of Art School Dropouts. We're technically like a two-man team of indie filmmakers on YouTube, and I think that's like a very terrible idea, but we've been doing it for years, and we managed to stay afloat. But yeah, like doing martial arts action, action comedy films. Yeah, so I'm basically doing just all of the writing, all of the creating, all of the editing and whatnot. But Steph definitely also helps out during production. It's not like she might be the business head, but we know how to run our sets. And so,
Yeah, we don't really have a lot of credit rolls happening in our films, but if we did, it would be like Joy, Steph.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
I think it's just like we just put it like, oh, art school dropouts. I think it's kind of a
It's just
given.
easier. Yeah.
That is a pretty cool name. How did you come up with that name?
Oh, so long time ago, it art school dropouts actually started with a just as a blog with a couple of my artist friends. One was a painter, and one was just like a general arts type of illustration guy. And we wanted to share our art, I guess, back then. And since one of the biggest blogs back then I used to read was film school rejects, we thought like, oh, we should have a very hipster name too. So art school dropouts became a thing, and that was the name, and it just stuck with like my original group. So we just started calling it the blog Art School Dropouts, and I made a WordPress, and we just that's where it happened.
Oh, none of us even went to art school, actually.
Well, I mean, you dropped out before you went, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
The art stayed though.
Do you do other arts, or is it just all mainly film?
Uh,
I don't want to share.
what?
No,
I
I
mean,
used
there's
to.
martial arts.
Right.
That's one definitely.
Ah.
There you go. That's pretty
Ah.
good. But that's also, to me, I think martial arts is a little bit of a science.
Yeah, it's everything, right? There's arts, there's fitness in there and combat and other aspects. But yeah, but mostly everything kind of like goes back into filmmaking. I think every art that I try to do, like I try to do music, and I was the all of that before, but then just a little part of my life, but like that just got into filmmaking, all of the ideas, and you know kind of funneled in there.
What did attract you to the film, to the
Or
film
Steph, you go
industry, or the
Oh.
yeah, for both? Well, mainly for you because you founded this, Joey.
Yeah,
Oh.
Joey.
I think ultimately, I think it's really, I think the idea before, like maybe now it's not that big of a deal to, I guess, the younger generation of film goers or whatnot. But I grew up in the era of Golden Harvest and Hong Kong action films, and I think being able to watch martial arts action, specifically martial arts action, but how they tell the story with nonverbal dialogue, with through fight scenes and action scenes, I fell in love with that, like all of that, and grew up doing martial arts. So I think it was kind of like a natural transition to when digital filmmaking was becoming more available, and like around 2000, and I had my Panasonic palm quarter and my Firewire or whatever, and I would just film my friends and I during high school. And I think just the idea of being replicating what Jackie Chan did,
That's so
right?
cool.
It's and or like Buster Keaton, right? Or like that type of humor and comedy shown through action, where it's like where martial arts and fighting isn't inherently violent or bloody, right? Like
Right.
there was some sort of like wholesomeness to that action, that physical acting, and I think that's kind of lost now. But I
It's
loved it.
true because you know what?
Yeah.
I mean, like it's like when you're watching your episode one, right? For one, and you're hearing, and you bring up a good point that you don't need to show the teeth flying, the
Yeah.
spit flying with blood. You don't need to show all that because the sound is so potent. You know what I mean? And the reaction. You know what? Oops.
Yeah. It's
Punch
really
my own mic.
the imagery of it all, right? I think we've seen, or for the people that have seen, like I said, I think I was like talking to you before the podcast about like the vaudevillian era of swashbuckling of Hollywood, right? With the sword fighting and whatnot. Like, and of course, sword fighting. Obviously, someone's gonna die on scene. If there's like sword fighting, but even with Zorro, right? Like how he did it, it's like it could like you could, I guess, effectively pacify an opponent by, not stabbing him through the heart, but it could be like you would use your sword and you slash him across the butt or something. It's funny, and you could have that reaction,
Yeah.
but you effectively know that that character isn't able to continue the fight anymore, and that's one way to stop the fight without, like, yeah, sure, violence, but there's humor in there that isn't like, oh, I took his life, kind of,
Yeah.
there is no cognitive dissonance, I guess, to the humor and the actual action that's happening on screen.
There's something about that we kind of need again, because a lot of the live action movies have become a little too realistic, as far as, even though it's all special effects, the special
Mm.
effects are trying to insinuate what really does happen in through the imagination, though. Like, I just imagined that I would hit somebody so hard in the chest, my arm and my whole hand would go right through it, which is, nobody does that. But then they're going to show all the gore and all the little details of that,
Yeah.
And I think that the simplicity, right? And these movies that you're talking about, those are fun for kids. They're not they're
Right.
not violent in that sense, like a lot of the movies today. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
So
I think the spectacle, or the idea of the spectacle, have changed throughout the years. I think there's more emphasis on, like, I don't even know how to explain it. Like, I
Like,
guess when,
yeah, like people want, I feel like back when I was growing up, everyone wanted to learn more traditional martial arts because they were influenced by like the films that we watched growing up.
Mhm.
Now it's a heavy emphasis on MMA because it's just marketed very violently, I guess.
yeah,
So I feel like in turn, all of the films that are, I guess, more mainstream now, it's just all about the violence and the gore. And if anything, people come to us and they're like, it doesn't look real. And it's like, because
see,
we're trying
that's
to
the
make it more
thing.
fun.
That's the thing, I think, right there. That, and it's also due to the fact that we can be complete critics on social media, when we weren't able to do that back then. So we weren't
Yeah.
we weren't going, hey, 2 million people, that was really stupid and fake and blah blah blah, right? And I think that has a lot to do with it, with people going, well, we don't want people to say that, so let's make it as real as possible. Bring in the splitting bones and blood.
Yeah. And it's like kind of a shock factor too, because I mean, I would assume and I would hope that most people have never seen that in their lives.
God.
So they kind of like live through it with films.
but at the same time, though, like, that's the same thing if we were to say with Jackie Chan. Like, if you, like, I think, I would see a couple of YouTube videos of, like, kids watching Jackie Chan for the first time. They're like, oh my god, that's awesome, but, like, why would he have to do all of that? That doesn't make any sense. I'm like, well, that's a theatrics, right? Like, it's
Yeah.
it's okay. I guess it makes sense for kids because, if they grow up watching Marvel, like, oh,
Right.
Captain America would do Jackie Chan stuff, but without the charisma and
Mhm.
like the style, because he's a superhero. But then why would Jackie Chan do it? He's just a normal dude. He's not a superhero, right? So it's kind of like, it's also, I guess the media has influenced kids too. Like, nowadays, I'm not saying that's like the primary thing, but it's just like,
Well, the media has
it's, yeah.
always influenced even us
Oh
when
yeah,
we were
true.
growing up.
Oh,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Yeah, media
Definitely.
is hugely. I mean, the target audience for just about any entity, organization, anything. I mean, it's the future is the children. And one of the things, that I studied in this whole thing in college was the marketing part of it, where when you write a treatment for a film now, it includes the toys. It includes how you're going to profit from it, and you haven't even
Oh
gotten
yeah.
to the shot list, the script, or the screenplay, or nothing yet. It's just, here's an
Right.
idea, and here's how we're going to make money on it.
Because, like, the studios, I guess I mean, it's a business
I mean,
now,
they
right?
gotta,
Like,
yeah, of
movies,
course.
yeah. So I think that's why I think having I kind of respect all of these other filmmakers that are really trying to do something different. And,
Mhm.
like, I don't want to just, like, I feel like that's a generic thing to say. Everybody says that, right? But, like, actually to do something that isn't, maybe it's like more important to them, like the story,
Mhm.
where they know it's not going to reach like a global success because, like, maybe their story is very niche, but to them it's important. I kind of like respect those people knowing that they'll put their blood, sweat and tears and effort to make their film or their short film when it really has like just a very niche market, right? But for them to like still put their heart into it, I think that's really awesome, you know?
You know, I kind of compare this a little bit to baking a cake.
Mm.
My sweet tooth is coming out. Uh, so basically, you really you work very hard at making this cake, or say a gourmet cook. You know, they work very hard at making this. They put it on a plate. They give it to somebody. They eat it, and it's gone. It's done. There's nothing except for somebody who walks away and says, "Yeah, that was pretty good. Have a nice life." That's it. Now with a film, right? Once you have that done, I mean, this is where I think a lot of the satisfaction is. It's forever there. You could
Yeah.
go back and watch it. People, you are alive in that movie. When people watch the movie, you're not dead. This is after, obviously. I'm talking about like after death or something. It's like a little bit of a legacy.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That's probably one of also the reasons why I was very much pulled into, making films. It's like ultimately when I first started this, it was me, my friends and I just making films, right? And it's kind of funny. I was like looking back at like all the old stuff that I used to do when uh, we would film documentaries, which is basically just vlogs now to the mainstream. But before all of that, we were already doing it, and it's kind of funny. Like I will always have those memories of my friends and I. I think that's what feels good.
It does. It does feel good. And I always call filmmaking, as a way to, I mean, you have a family of people that you, over the years, that you trust and you work with. And sometimes, I mean, I used to say that too. It's like, hey, everybody, when are we going to make a movie so we can, meet up and have some fun together?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I was a weekender filmmaker, but not my films, but we were working on films to help university students with a bunch of professionals, right? It was part of a group that we were involved in. And basically, every weekend there was a new project, and we would spend all weekend working on it. And we'd never see that again. Like, there are a lot of times the film would never, because these are, this is supposed to be the final film they made for, for their, bachelor's degree in film or something. And we'd never see it sometimes. It wouldn't go beyond
Yeah.
showing it in the classroom, getting a grade, and bye-bye, But,
Right.
Yeah.
but the experience was awesome.
Right. And I think it's because, well, I don't know. I think that's what the thing that we learned through YouTube. Like I said, being independent filmmakers on YouTube, I think it's silly, but it did teach us the value of seeing a film through, no matter how bad it is, no matter how ugly it gets. You finish it, you put it out there, and there's a there's a visible stepping stone where you guys landed on, and then
Gratification is pretty
yeah.
instant there,
Yeah.
because of that. You uploaded, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, so many people have watched it already,
Right.
that is true. That's an interesting point that you just brought up.
Right. And and I think for a lot of filmmakers that I've also met, sometimes putting your film out there to be actually critiqued by
Mhm.
people outside your class or your circle, it's daunting, I think,
Oh
for
yeah,
some
it's
people.
It's
scary
like you're a
because like,
masochist.
oh my god. I mean, filmmaking is addicting, but it's
Yeah.
also like it's scary because now everyone's critiquing your work, and it's just how are you going to kind of take that critique? Because not everybody likes our content, but we're fortunate enough to have an audience that actually enjoys it. And honestly, it's those messages that we would get or comments that we would get that kind of help us keep doing what we're doing, because it's just like, huh, okay, so like this person smiled and it made their day because they watched our video.
That's awesome.
It's worth it.
Heck yeah. I know, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think,
Power of films, right?
yeah, it's one of the things that I think has come out of the pandemic. quite honestly, is people do appreciate, the content creators a little more than they used to. They're being
Yeah,
in,
I could kind of see that actually. I mean, when you're kind of stuck in quarantine and there's nothing else to do but look at, you know,
Yeah, right.
films.
creations by other people.
Yeah.
It's like the fastest. I mean, yeah, definitely. There's a lot of content out there.
Yeah.
Although I do want to say there to me, there's like a difference. I do have this.
Content
I
creative versus filmmaker thing.
Well, the idea, the word content
Mm-hmm.
and art,
Yeah.
and I know I purposefully for certain things I would like make sure I say the right word because like yeah we make content, but there are times where I'm trying to make art, right? And I get it, like because I feel like the word content just takes out
It
all of the
it does. It
creativeness.
makes it seem like everything is just some
It's
marketable thing.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's just a product.
Yeah.
And granted, that's like when I talk to other people and they're like talking about YouTube, it's also kind of not the same because like a couple of our friends who are YouTubers, they're content creators. Like their content is based off other people's creations, right? They like talk about it or they show it or like what I mean. Like
Yep.
it's like the age of TikTok where it's like your videos are based off of somebody else's dance or somebody else's music or somebody else's joke or something.
I mean, you're filling in a template on TikTok.
Yeah,
You're just
right.
creating. They give you this template, and you're creating the content within that template, basically, right?
Right.
As far,
So,
but
yeah.
but I
So
know
that's the
I know
same thing.
exactly what you mean. Actually,
Right.
I think that one of the things, and this is not to say, I totally agree with you though, because I think a lot of filmmakers are like, dude, I am not a content creator. I am a
Yeah.
filmmaker. You know what I'm saying? But
Well, yeah, without
here's
us
the thing
being
though. But there are a lot of content creators who can now make films. I'm trying to attract everyone to make a film because I think that's the ultimate storytelling machine, the filmmaking, the final product. Once you just kick back, you don't have to move. You don't have to do anything. You can lay in the couch eating potato chips or whatever, and you're just sitting there and you are now into this other world created by somebody else.
right.
And
And that's not to say though, like what I mean by like content creators, because there are people that focus their entire thing with like say vlogs,
mhm,
but they're different from the rest because they actually it is a story, right? They tell a great story,
right.
and it's a different set. I guess then again, vlogs are documentaries from like if you really think about it, but there's some people just really elevated that that the genre of filmmaking, and so I get it too. There is a fine line where I think it's content and
Yeah.
art, I guess.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of like saying it's like a sub thing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Or because I think smartphone filmmaking, for the most part, is a parallel to the mainstream industry.
Mhm.
And I think it's just getting closer and closer where ultimately it will be a part of it. It's just, just like, oh, I'm the red guy. I film with red camera. You know what I'm saying? It's kind of like,
Yes.
oh, well, I'm the smartphone one because I film with my. It's like it's just going to become because I mean we see the differences, right? If we're looking for them, but it depends on each individual film that's shot with a smartphone because some people are better and some people are not, and then different things. You know what I'm saying with the limitations of these smartphone cameras. But I think for the most part, most people don't care and don't notice things like that. If you're watching like a regular drama or something like that, you can get away with shooting that with a smartphone and people just getting enthralled into that story. What do you think, Stephanie?
I mean, I think it's kind of like an elitist thing because so I mean, I feel like a lot of filmmakers are probably in these groups as well, but on Facebook there's a lot of like filmmaking groups, like independent filmmakers and whatnot. And it's always disheartening to see, I guess, like filmmakers posting up, I guess, films that are shot through like a phone. And some filmmakers are just straight up rude, like, hey, be a real filmmaker and get a real camera. Like, that is so, like, so rude.
It's
It's so
really, you know what's
disrespectful.
really harsh? When a mobile filmmaker is telling another mobile filmmaker that they can't really make a good mobile film unless they do this and do that, and you got to do this and you do that. You know why I don't like that? It's
Oh
because
my
that's what video and filmmakers professionally normally do. They
Yeah.
intimidate everybody that wants to do it, because some of them just think like, you can't be like me, and I'm going to tell you, if you want to be like me, what you got to do. And then once you get through knowing that, you're not going to want to do it.
Yeah, that's just, I
Yeah,
don't know. That's just
I think it's
wild.
just that. I think, well, I do understand that there is a standard of, like say visual quality, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like I get all of that. And, obviously, I think a lot of people, oh, I guess like the filmmakers that just focus on the cinematography or the visual freshness of a shot kind of forget that it's the story, right? Like
Exactly.
and people forget that that's what it is. And if you're just parroting a story, like I get it. Like a lot of people, I think when they start, they make fan films or whatnot, right? And it's because it's a lot easier to do that when you don't have to write a character, you don't have to build the world, and you don't have to
Like a cover band.
understand. Yeah, like you're just making a cover. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure. You make like not like a original story that's based off of the world, and you don't have to tell who this person is because everybody knows who this person is because it's a fan film. Like, I get it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's the same thing. Like you can. I think it's a story, I guess. Like if you can tell your story and people can just watch it regardless of the quality of your film. I mean, like Blair Witch did that, right? Isn't that the
I mean,
and
like,
that was like a
we're going back to that whole Blair Witch thing, which is
yeah.
freaking awesome.
I mean, because like it's I guess just how they all did it, and like it was just such a great concept, and it started the idea of the found footage, film like the found footage genre of horror films, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that simple idea that they had, like literally
And
gave
the
birth to a whole
marketing,
new genre.
right, Stephanie? The
Yeah,
marketing. I
Yeah.
mean, it set standards right there and then.
It's smart. And like I think it's really hard for, I guess, people to just be original and get their work out there when we are bombarded with the constant same like TikToks and like mainstream content. And it's a bit unfortunate because like I see a lot of like independent films and I'm like, this is amazing. Like this should be seen by everyone. But it's, there's just so much content out there, and the algorithms and all of that. It's just so disheartening at times, but filmmaking is addicting. And I think it's just really important to be able to like tell your story and not be, I guess, discouraged by like, oh, the numbers or the likes or anything like that.
Yeah, there's too much intimidation already happening. You don't need to add to it by
Yeah.
intimidating yourself.
Yeah.
yeah, and those are like false measurements of your quality, right? By if you base yourself off of numbers.
Yeah. If you love your work, then like the audience that you are really going for is yourself, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think that that should be first and foremost, anyways.
I think that's what happens. There's uh, everything I do. The only thing that ends me that makes me say, okay, it's finished, is a deadline. That's it. Other than that, I mean, I do graphics and things like that, and I could just go and go on and go on forever, because that whole process to me is it's a lot of fun. I mean, I mean,
Yeah, I think I think
it's
with
like
us,
stroking when we were little. Remember that time when you took the first like color Sharpie or something and put it across a paper or a wall? I'm not going to say that you did that. And you're like, whoa, I made that mark,
I'm gonna do it again.
right?
Yeah. I think with us, it's always like wanting to do something new. And it's like, we'll work on a project for like, I don't know, I think the most is maybe a few months. And then it's like, all right, cool, it's done and it's posted and it's up and that's it. On to the next one. Or even while we're in the middle of like a project, we're already working on like two others.
That's incredible though, because that's exactly what it's about though, because it's a challenge. And so you're just going on from one challenge to the next, but your challenges are creative and fun, and at the same time you you're making some people pretty happy by entertaining them, and that's kind of what the whole storytelling thing does. Kind of pulls people out of their heads, right?
Yeah, it's just an escape. And our mini web series, The Legend of No Budget Zorro,
Yeah.
that whole thing, it was actually a lot smaller prior. Um,
Yeah, the idea was, I mean, because like we definitely don't try to make, well, I have this thing where I don't want to do fan films, or I just don't want to take somebody else's IP and like make it. But uh, we have our stuntman friends that have been talking about, hey, we should do a Zorro thing for like years now. And I'm like, you know what? Then I just really studied the like the golden era of Hollywood, sword fighting thing, and I really fell in love with it. And I did the research, and I went out and I found like a historical European martial arts group, and I started learning how to fence and everything like that, just so I could
Nice.
choreograph this the fight scenes in our thing, and still mix it with like the Hong Kong style. So yeah, it was supposed to be small, but I think it's just we just try to make it a little bit bigger, a little bit better, even though it's still the whole point is still make it no budget and phone, and it's just our backyard and a lot of costumes, a lot of props,
I
but
would
cute
say like
cute props.
90% of it was like through the phone, and then like maybe 10% was through like
An
Insta
action camera.
360,
Yeah.
just because there's only three of us, and when all three of us are in the shot, we don't have a camera person, so we just have a C stand with a 360 camera on it.
Yeah.
But like the iPhone is really, it's
Yeah.
really good. Like the picture, sometimes I look at it, I'm like that's crazy. Like this, I feel like this is better than my DVX from like early 2000.
Oh
Like
God, yes. They're much better than just about any camera from wow, 2000. I just dawned on me that was like a long time ago.
yeah, I know
Holy.
I have it like in its own house. It's like I that's like to remind me where I was, where I started. Kind of. I mean, definitely didn't start there, but you know what I mean. Like
No, I was a teenager walking around with a VHS camcorder, which was it looked like something out of for a TV station. And I would go
gosh.
around filming my parents. My mom is from Spain, and so my parents were constantly having people over and playing flamenco and stuff. And so it was just so easy, for me. It's like I had stuff, performances, and all kinds of stuff around me, to play with. But it's a VHS camera, for God's sake, and I still have it.
I know. I kind of want to go back and actually do it justice and make a good looking film with that old technology.
With the old tech, I think you could. So in 2014, one of the winners of the film festival in the shorts, they made a little film using his girlfriend was making little stuffed unique animals, characters, and they locked her in the closet and they cooked her breakfast, and it was all done like that. But the guy it was all done through iPhones, GarageBand, sound effects, all this stuff, and they won. It was adorable. But the thing is, like, there's so many things you can use, and so many people are so creative. This guy actually made a short film with a Fisher Price camera.
That sounds
What?
awesome.
Yeah, like
Wait, there was that film that was done using like
the car dash,
the yeah.
right?
or
I
it
think
was
it
like
was like
the
a spoof of a thing, but yeah, it
yeah, the
was.
reverse cam or something. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the dash cam movie making or something like. I remember that. Yeah. Well, do you guys use what tools have you used with the iPhone, gear, apps, things like that? Don't go into a lot of detail, but just to let our listeners know.
It was just the phone.
Awesome.
Well,
Yay.
it was just well with a gimbal,
Yeah.
you know.
Oh yeah, with a gimbal.
It's a
Yeah.
Xeon crane, but like it was the phone wasn't heavy enough, so I had to like manipulate and add
Put
like
a
I had to buy a
sandbag
mount
on
from.
top.
Well, I actually bought like I went to like a Five and Below, you know,
Oh,
like it's just like a very cheap place. Like I just
yeah.
used a phone mount, put it on the gimbal, and I added like I went to Home Depot and put washer weights on it just to be heavy enough for
Nice.
the gimbal to bounce. And really, that's it, you know. And because we
Yeah.
weren't really trying to, I wasn't gonna set up lights. I was, you know, like stuff like that, right?
Right.
Like I wasn't going. I wanted to actually show what an iPhone could do without manipulating, you know, like light
Hmm.
or any of the sources to make the visual different, right? So what people see is actually what the iPhone can film. I mean, I
Did you
colored
use
it.
reflectors for light or anything at least?
Oh,
No.
like just
What the
very
heck?
basic. The idea, like when we were saying it, I was like, hey, let's just film this like we did in high school. You know, like well, how I felt
Nice.
in high school. Let's just film and just have fun. And I think that was one of the projects that we did recently that was very, look, memorable for me at least because it like the whole time we were just laughing. Right.
Uh-huh.
It didn't like it was like, I don't know, maybe a total of 5 days in total, but the entire time we're just like, that's funny or that's stupid. Oh, you know what we could do? And it's just, you know,
That's
Yeah.
so cool.
like,
We actually filmed it technically twice because we previs the whole thing first
Oh.
with an iPhone just to
right.
see. And then we're like, all right, I guess we're doing this again, but for real this time with full
Right.
costumes, full acting, and everything.
Okay, there are some things that I still cannot not do anymore. Like I have to storyboard and I have to
Yeah.
plan it out before we actually film it, right? So I don't want to waste people's time, right? So yeah, so we did
But
have
that is part
a
of
pieces,
the storytelling process, though, for a film,
right?
because you could get really carried away and forget what you were really, you know what I mean? And then when you get into
Yeah,
editing, you're like, this is not going to work now.
yeah. So
That's the
that's why,
problem,
like,
yeah, sometimes. So I'm glad that you storyboarded. Are you a good artist too?
no.
Oh,
So when we
we
so when we
previs.
storyboard,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we have a lot of because of all of the years and the staff and everyone else in our group. We have a lot of stuffed animals
Nice.
and I can't draw, so we storyboard by just using the stuffed animal.
Oh,
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
we like stand in and we use like our hands for like talking like people or whatnot. So it's because when there's really just like Joey and myself,
Mhm.
it's kind of hard to film scenes and like storyboard or like previs in that sense.
Right.
So we're like, well, we have to figure it out because it just saves us a lot of like time and headache on the actual shoot days.
Because like between her and I, we if we talked about the shot and we have an idea, like she already can translate. Like if she's behind the camera,
Mhm.
she already could translate the shot that I'm going for. So she could, even if she's like my DP, she gets my idea, right?
yeah.
And but at the same thing, that's why we have this thing on actually on our Patreon, where if people like our Patreons can actually see like our films that we've done that's storyboarded, but it's done with all of the stuffed animals.
Yeah.
Like
Aw.
like we have a feature film called My Asian Auntie, or it's called Yes Auntie, and it's like it was picked up and it's in
Yeah,
Amazon
that's the
and
one
it's
that I
like
read on. I read about.
oh,
Tell a little
we
bit.
have a
I know that one's not an
oh,
iPhone film, but
it's
that's
not an
you.
iPhone.
It's still you.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's still us. It's very Art School Dropouts, but they're like on our Patreon. They have access to watch the entire film, like the entire film in storyboard form. But our storyboard isn't just like frames, right? We actually like obviously move the stuffed animals so they can watch the entire movie with the stuffed animals.
But it's also in like Joey's living room, but we understand the shots. So you could see the whole entire feature film in storyboard
Just
film
sitting
like
on the floor
form.
with a bunch of stuffed animals
Yeah.
planning the shots.
You know those things that they sometimes do where they put one, you know, what is that? It's like one video track, but it's on the screen. It's half the top of the screen and
Yeah,
then not the bottom.
right. Yeah.
Comparing them both like shot to shot.
Right.
You
We
know,
should do that.
I mean,
We
Just to show
should.
I
people.
don't know
We
how
should.
It's
good it
very
would
cute.
work because it wasn't shot at the same time. You know what I'm saying? But
Yeah, that is
Yeah.
true.
yeah,
Yeah.
but I
There's a
think
lot
it'd
of
be fun
laughing when we do
to,
storyboards.
yeah.
Steph just laughs a lot. Like
I because it's funny because it's like, all right, you're gonna do this, and a lot of our scripts are already like very like comical, just because it's like action comedy. So it's like, all right, say this line. I'm like, okay, all right, I'll say it, and then I'm just laughing while I'm saying it. But I mean, I think it's just cute, and plus, for the Legend of No Budget Zoro, we actually do this thing on our Patreon as well, where it's like behind the scenes footage, but we also do like a 360-degree live stream for our patrons, like live while we're filming. So that
Oh,
way it
okay.
makes like our patrons feel like producers.
Yeah.
Because then it's like, oh, they're like on set and they're watching us as we're riding these like horses in spot. And they're like, what?
right, and it definitely shows like the creative things that we have to do as filmmakers because as filmmaking, like problem solving is definitely a big part of the process, right? So
It's
sometimes
half
we run into
it,
problems.
isn't that like
Yeah.
80% of the job is troubleshooting?
Yeah.
I mean,
I
it's
guess
like,
it really is.
Yeah.
Right.
yeah, I
But
remember.
that's why everybody needs to storyboard. You guys need to plan before you.
Yes.
That's like
Well, yeah, and you have to have a little bit of a shot list as well, because if you don't, like I'm saying, so I obviously, so like let me tell you where I'm coming from. Why I keep saying that. I was a script supervisor,
uh,
so that's why it's like,
those scripty saves films,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah.
yeah, it's like, oh my god, you don't want to miss something. Have you guys? You've made, so all these films that you've done so far have been short, right? For the most part.
So we have shorts, then we have web series that are basically like almost feature film length or like long shorts. I guess that's what's the
Long
term.
shorts.
Yeah.
It's like
And
an
there's
oxymoron.
right. Because like anything that isn't feature film, it's like in between, what is it, like
It's
an
40 minutes
like that.
minimum for a feature, which I found surprising.
Wait, what?
Oh
I
wait, it's
thought
Yeah,
minimal?
that's according to the
Oh.
guild. I think it's 40 minutes.
What?
Yep.
I thought it was like, wasn't it like
I thought it was
an
like an
hour?
hour.
No, what
something?
happens
Yeah.
is like for distribution, they usually love 90-minute films. Those sell the best for, if you're looking for to distribute your film on Netflix and all that stuff. But for the most part, that's what I read, because when I had to introduce feature films, I'm like, well, what exactly is a time length for that? Because there's so many different time lengths. And I was surprised. I didn't realize till I researched it. I was like, huh, okay. So, yeah.
Well, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, you
Well,
have a film
right.
festival, right?
Well, no, I research everything before I do anything. But
yeah.
for the most part, yeah. I mean, like, I almost wanted to argue with it because I was like, it should be at least an hour.
Yeah.
But if you consider, the fact that that's been the standard for so long, it's like, whatever. I mean, it's like, you don't have to make a 40-minute film and then call it a feature, because I think a lot of people would get confused with that anyways,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Right.
I mean, if that's the
If that's the case, then we have a lot of features.
Yeah.
But because like I think also on YouTube, when there was a time when I guess we were just making sketches or just shorts, like just sketches really, and our sketches basically are it's just one scene, right? I as a as I'm writing these things, I kind of get burnt out because like the idea of jumping to so many ideas like really kind of burned me out. Obviously, that's what I just said. So the us making long form content, telling a story that spans like over an hour, but we split it up as a web series. We found that worked well for us. So then I could write a story, build this world, and build these characters, and have them go through like like a story that spans like months on our channel. And I think that was healthier for us to produce than trying to make like here's a joke, here's a joke, here's a joke, like every week,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, that
So
can
yeah,
be
that's why.
exhausting.
Yeah. So definitely like a web series that we're doing, and we have a bunch on our channel, So yeah, if like 40 minutes is if 40 minutes is a feature, then yeah, we've been doing like hour long hour long
Yeah.
plus features on our channels for years now.
Very,
Yeah.
very, very cool. So, what is your, I mean, outside of the web series, because of the web series, are you guys finding that the iPhone might be something that you're attracted to make a feature film with? Like, I mean, at, like a 90-minute film.
Yeah, I definitely think there is a merit to it. Like I know I've been playing around with ideas,
Mhm.
but I'm also kind of that person that where I would love to write an idea that fits the technology and resource that I'm putting into it. So if it's going to be like an iPhone, like I have a couple ideas that I'm kind of messing around with, but I definitely would love to make a feature with an iPhone. I think it's very doable. I think it's very fun. It was kind of, you know, maybe it would just I don't know how much resource would I put into it though. Like, would I really do the whole? Should I get like a 20-man like crew? Are we lighting every scene like kind of
Well,
thing?
so here's the thing. And so you can do everything like you've been doing with a regular camera. And the only thing that you do, all the gear is the same, C stands, lights, cranes, whatever you want. You just need an iPhone or a smartphone of any brand, and you can adapt it to all that gear. And
Oh yeah, no, definitely,
and
I can
definitely.
that's,
figure. Yeah.
I think, what a lot of the indie filmmakers are actually doing. And then of course some of them are investing in things like, obviously, your traditional, camera lens is not going to fit. You're not going to be able to, well, some people are, you could get the
Yeah,
cages and
but I
things like
feel like
that, but I
doesn't
think
that
that's a
kind
little too much for me.
Yeah, I think that
Yeah.
exactly. I felt like that way too, because like I know, like another mobile film festival, right? It's like Moment, I think,
Oh yeah, yeah,
right?
because they sell the lenses. Yeah,
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
and they're
and
supposed to
everything
be
with
very
that.
good.
Yeah, they're supposed to be very good, but at the same time, doesn't that kill the idea of like, hey, like let's show what the phone can do,
Well,
right?
I
When
think
you're
you're
attaching
also
like,
being a very, what did somebody tell me about this? And I think this happens to me because I've been in this for like 13 years now, since 2009, where people think I should be a complete 100% purist.
oh,
And I'm not. I'm purist to the point to where I want to see this progress, and whatever it takes for you and Stephanie or anybody else to make a movie, as long as you're using that camera to make the movie that you want to make, that you're happy with. And like Stephanie was
mm,
saying before, if you're happy with what you've created, right? And you created it with a smartphone, I think it's pretty awesome though. But I think you're right, because there are, if you start going that route. Okay, let's check this out, Stephanie. Check this out. How many products come out every year? Along with the fact that you get a new smartphone model with all kinds of new, and they focus a lot on the camera every year. What happens to the apps whenever they update it, if they do a major update, right? There's a lot of, I gotta redo this. If you get a new phone and now all the gear you bought with the other one doesn't fit, that's a
Yeah.
huge investment and time. And now you're researching again. Well, is that the best one out there now that I bought 2 years
Like
ago?
in-app purchases, and then
Ugh,
like now you have this like older, like I guess this gear
features
that you
change.
just sitting there, and it's like, well, what do I do now? Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
Because then you never get around to telling that story.
Yeah, I think it's really important to like, if you have a story to tell, just find a way to tell it. And if you need to use your phone, then use your phone.
Yep.
I think a lot of people, they have this false sense of like, oh, if I'm a filmmaker, I need like a whole team, like all of these things, and they're like, I want it to be perfect. But sometimes, like, even if you were to have everything lining up to make it perfect, I don't think as creatives, as filmmakers, you're never like, you know what, that was like my best work. You're always going to try to make it better and better and better every single time you do it. If you like, if anyone listening is still stuck on, like, I guess, one script, like your first film, just go out there and just shoot it. You're going to learn so much more by actually going out there
with your
and just
phone.
making it.
With your
Yes,
phone.
with your
Yeah,
phone. With
yeah.
whatever resources you have.
Because if you think about it, I think I know there's like talking to other people or the idea where certain creatives only do something when they're inspired to do something. I think that's silly because like you can be inspired to do something, but if you don't have the skill set that you've developed by just practicing, like
I
phone
think you can
filmmakers.
inspire yourself when you see the results, but in order to see the
Yeah.
results, you've got to actually do
Yeah,
something.
you guys still practice, right? So these people that are probably, filming on their phone as filmmakers, they're testing, they're filming, they're doing ideas that because they're, it's you work on your craft, right? And it's the same thing, I guess, like with drawing or something. Just because you're inspired to draw doesn't mean you have the technical, like mechanical knowledge and skill set to draw something beautiful,
Yeah.
right? Same thing. Practice with the phone. I mean, the thing that we did, obviously, it's not like the epitome of our filmmaking like skill set, but like seeing that compared to the stuff that I did when I was a kid, I'm like, crap, like the stuff that I did is terrible compared to this thing, right?
And you shot it with a phone.
And
Yeah.
shot it with a phone.
I mean,
Awesome.
even looking at our stuff from like what, 5 years ago, it's like,
It's better than the stuff that we shot 5 years ago. We put a phone on and a $5 like phone mount, like duct tape it to a stick, and I held it up, and that's our drone footage.
That's
Like,
that's okay. So that's what I call superhero creativity.
right,
Now try putting a DSLR on a stick with a duct tape and see how
right,
willing you are to even think about that, right?
I saw a
right.
video of someone doing that, and the phone, I mean, not the phone, the camera fell right off, and the lens
Yeah.
just snapped off of it. And I was like, nope, never gonna do that.
So,
I was on a film
right.
set that this guy insisted had to be shot on film, and it was like a horror
Oh,
inside the cabin
jeez.
thing. It was shot, day for night, the whole thing,
Mhm.
and it was just super dark in there. And I kept telling them, "You guys, film when you develop it, it's gonna look darker than what you see in that monitor, no matter what you do." And they're like, "No, it's fine." That film never went anywhere. I mean, I remember
People
somebody
just
brought a
forget, right?
DVD of like the final draft type thing. And I was like, what is this? Where is it? Hold on, turn off all the lights so I could see what's going on there. It was horrible.
Oh my God.
But I think
Yeah,
I think it's what happens, some people get really stuck, and it's normal though. I mean, I don't
hmm
want you to think that I'm criticizing that you're into all that. That's completely normal. What we're saying is if you're thinking about making one film first that you've never made one, just get a story in mind and focus on this
right.
story. Then pick up your phone, do it, and once you do it, all the mistakes you make, just like all the mistakes Joey, Stephanie, and I, and everybody who's ever done anything, we learn from them.
Mhm.
But you're also going to see all the cool things that you can do. And that's
Right.
the flip side. And that will inspire you. So if you're waiting to be inspired, you have to do something and inspire yourself. Don't depend on somebody else to inspire you or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
because like obviously with the phone too, like like while you like if you learn the basics, then you can break the rules, right? One of the things that we're
Yeah.
doing is like put that thing on a stick, and I just start shoving it in during during the choreography and the fight scenes, and I could get different angles that you wouldn't get with a big DSLR or something, unless stuff that only Hollywood would do because they would have those robotic arm like connected
Yeah, the crane,
to
yeah.
cranes that just would these very specific movements. But like that's the thing, and I think there is a lot of freedom that people forget that you can use with the phone. But I think, like you said, purist or elitist or whatever, it's like they don't want to trade that idea, like the freedom of doing stuff, right? So
Hmm.
yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I think the whole purpose of, I mean, there's a story in everything. So when you were talking about martial arts earlier, is martial arts with all the moves and everything, this is just me being curious, okay? This is a dorky question. Is there a story with these? Like, is it, like when people dance and they're choreographing their dances, they mean things and they're telling a story throughout the dance? Is martial
Oh,
arts in a way like that too?
that's how Joy choreographs. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Nice.
like I definitely try to. It's the whole idea of nonverbal dialogue, like the way that I choreograph things, even though it's very. I mean, obviously, I think if you're very much into it, maybe people would understand it. It's still a very Shakespearean three-act style where you see the hero and the villain and they fight, and that's the first act, and like the second act the villain actually starts winning over the hero, then the hero finally finds one way to defeat the villain, right? It's very much like tailored like that. But sometimes when I get too deep into my own choreography, it sometimes people might not see it, but I want people to be able to feel that that's the Shakespearean three act is still coming through, right?
Nice.
And but like I said, it's different. It's like Hong Kong style. It's definitely told more on like the action and the punches and kicks and how they punch or how they kick, and it's not like there is no insert shot of hero breathing heavily while he looks up, like what I mean, like type of stuff. It's
Yeah.
it's just done in the choreography, right? But yeah, so it took me a while to learn American style action too, right? So mixing that both to have our own little special blend on our channel that mixes Eastern and Western filmmaking.
That is
That's the
very
thing,
cool.
right?
And so would you say that you are, I mean, that's one type of, genre that you can make. Are you going to make more, or is that like is that your forte? How's that?
Yeah, it's our forte, but we've done Korean dramas before. We've
Yeah.
done yeah, we've
Nice.
done like dramatic stuff. We've done like super serious stuff too.
We like to change it up. Like if there's any like ideas or anything, we'll just kind of go for it. I think we even did oh my gosh, what was it? The Dropout to Love, Joy.
Hmm.
Well, that
It
was
was
like we were
like
trying to do like a video game with the
like an
YouTube.
interactive
Yeah.
like YouTube dating game like
Right.
short.
Where you click, how like the end cards of the YouTube, like, oh, do give her flowers or give her chocolate, like
Right.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
We were like, I really love messing around with technology and YouTube back then. Like the idea, like, oh man, we could tell this interactive story, and
Wow.
when I actually really plotted it out and like the amount of things that you would have to film, I was like, oh my god, this is
Yeah,
crazy.
it was
But
very stressful.
but we did it, and I thought it was
We
funny.
did
It's
it.
just,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we've done a lot. It's just that we always go back to like action comedy simply because it makes us feel good. Like it's the type of stories that makes us smile, and it's one of those projects that we walk away, and when we finish it and we watch it, it's like, oh, that felt really good, right? Because some of the other stuff that we've done, like the super serious one, and like the characters are like gritty, grim, dark type of stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's cool, visually it's cool, but then it's like, like I just you walk away from it, it's kind of like mad or something, whatever
Yeah.
emotion that we try to implement with it. So, yeah.
I don't know. I think people get different different um understandings. I mean, people are educated through films and
I
stories.
agree.
You know,
Yeah.
like educated, like, oh, I didn't realize. You know what I mean? I love what you guys are doing. I really do. I hope you do make, even a short film or a whatever, and maybe bring your art school dropouts wonderful vibes to our film festival next year.
Yeah, I would love to go
Oh,
to San Diego.
Yeah, I think
yeah.
I think you'd love the weather. Watch it rain. next year.
Right.
We would be used to it.
Yeah, we're
Jersey
from
weather
Jersey. It's like
is
it
it's
rains like
terrible.
5 days out of the week.
Yeah, but
So
we're not like that. We don't like that here. We like it one day. We make a big
Yeah.
deal. Oh, look, it rained. Yay. And then
You
it's
can
like,
only
go away.
imagine how difficult it is when it comes to like planning a production and actually filming. And it's like, well, we need to reschedule because it rained today. Then the next day, it's like it's snowing.
Yeah,
What?
things
yeah,
are
the
getting
past
really
few months
screwed
have
up.
been nutty. The past few days have been, or past few months have been nutty here. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know, somewhere, I don't know if this is actually true or what that was, but somewhere I bumped into a photo of people in the snow trying to cross the street in Mexico
Oh
City
my
or
god.
something like that. And I
It's
was like,
crazy.
what? That's like, remember The Day After Tomorrow with Dennis Quaid? That's where everybody went
That's
to
Oh
nutty.
my god.
to get away from the ice. That's
That is
crazy.
absolutely nutty.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to end this podcast with that.
Yeah.
Just we're, so what I would like to do is to read this beautiful quote on your website, Joey. Do you mind?
Oh, no problem. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, you're like, somebody's going to read my quote. From the very start, I knew I was building something special, something unique. And after countless tears and laughter, I realized I was building a family, because it's not the blood that makes you family, but the loyalty. Joey, beautiful.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Stephanie, do
It-
you
it
have
really-
anything inspiring like that you can say?
Oh no,
right
that
now?
Joey is like the heart of Art School Dropouts.
That
Makes
is,
sense. Yeah.
yeah, when I read that,
Yeah.
I was like, I totally, the whole thing, I was building a family. It
Right.
really is. A lot of people don't know that, but it takes special people to survive making movies. And I don't mean economically.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, we do take
It-
care of our family. Joey, he cooks like crafties and everything. Like
Nice.
we have a whole show called Crafties for Cheap where we actually just like Joey cooks like up ideas of what to feed our future productions, and he does it.
Wow. How cool
Yeah.
are you?
Well, thank you.
So would you say a meal is like a production for you?
If we're
No, I
filming
mean,
Crafties for Cheap,
yeah, like, oh, you're filming crafties, yeah. But sometimes it's just like we've been in a lot of
Mhm.
other productions. It's like, yeah, we have world class crafties, and it's like a cooler of like eggs, of like hard boiled eggs, and I'm like, what the heck,
Yeah.
That is
know,
pretty
so-
cool. The one thing I remember actually giving advice, and I created a list of all the things to consider and to have. And there was a woman in Big Bear when I went and worked over there on this film, and she said, I was just volunteering for this. Everybody's mad. And I'm like, because you're doing it all wrong. You're not thinking about vegetarians. You're not thinking about
Yeah.
you're thinking about just
Yeah.
like feeding. And they
Yeah.
don't need feeding. They need nourishment, and they need
Yes,
red vines hanging out of their mouths.
exactly,
Oh my
right.
gosh,
And that's the
yeah.
thing too. That's why we like our show specifically on our channel called Crafties for Cheap, is because of that. It's like I made a point where that it's an overlooked part of like independent filming most of the time, like in productions.
Yeah.
Like the whoever the directors or producers are, because of their small thing, even if it's like a 5-man crew, they don't even like offer water
Yeah.
or
Oh,
something.
I've been
And-
on sets where like they don't even offer water, or like I would have to ask if I can go and leave to go to like I don't know a 7-Eleven, and they're like, nope, you can't. And it's like it's a 12-hour film day with not even water.
we've extended. Yeah, there were times when we had to extend the time, and we'd send somebody out to get those like massive 1 mile long Subway sandwiches for everybody, but we'd get
Yeah.
2 or 3 of them, like the vegetarian style, the one without onions. I was like, dude, there's only like 10 people.
Yeah.
You
But you
know?
gotta
Right,
take
exactly.
care of your
Yep.
cast and crew.
Yep.
That's like
That's-
super important.
gotta feed your production, and sometimes the people, your friends that are part of it, like they're
I mean,
volunteering.
that's
the least you could do is feed them.
Yeah.
Oh, we were both in unison there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing too. People don't realize that like us as even though we're doing YouTube,
Mhm.
we have collectively a lot of experience working in the industry, on our own, right? So taking it back to our little indie film productions, I think, the stuff that I definitely hated working for other people, like
Yeah.
we try to alleviate that for the people that will work for us, right?
Yeah.
And food is definitely one thing, you know.
Yeah,
Food, proper planning, and like it's just yeah.
it's actually, yeah, you're right. It is underrated. Like you don't want to give people stuff to eat that's going to make them tired. Like what is that? Turkey. You don't want to feed
Right? Like who
turkey,
was tryptophan? Like you're gonna
right?
you're gonna
Yeah.
sleep.
Like if
The
anything, you
ISIS,
want
the ISIS, sorry,
acai,
ISIS.
fruits and things like that that are going to nourish you and keep your energy going and all that. I'm like snapping my fingers. I'm all into this. What's going on here? But no, I really think something that you just said about YouTube. YouTube, if you concentrate and give all of yourself towards YouTube, I think, for the people that are just YouTubers, because there is a difference, right? I think YouTube is a
Definitely.
great side, a tool that you should use, like you guys are for your branding and to get your stuff seen and to get the support and all that stuff. But there are people that are wearing themselves out, literally,
Yeah.
on YouTube. And they're just doing so much. And they're not, it gets to the point to where they feel like they're stuck because they're stuck with that one theme that's worked for them. And they don't do what you guys do because you guys look to do new things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's also like, I mean, understanding the algorithm and knowing like, okay, if you plan on getting big on YouTube, then you kind of have to be, doing the same thing because that's what people expect from you.
Yeah.
For us, we understand and we know like we don't have millions of subscribers or anything like that because we like the freedom of just making
Yeah.
whatever we would like to make.
I think it's definitely like there's the two sides of that spectrum, right? Like it's easy to build an audience if you're doing one thing consistently
Yeah.
all the time, right? And as you keep doing the same thing, you get better at it too, right? But as a filmmaker, that's kind of hard for us when there's so many ideas and so many stories that we want to do, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, like if we want to do like I said, we did a Korean drama once, then we did a Japanese drama, then we started doing like a serious action film, then a very fun, happy-go-lucky part. It's hard. It was hard to really change the perception that I'm, like, oh, we should be okay with losing subscribers or not having a lot simply because it's impossible to really market what we do when we change a lot. Like some people might go in and they're like into our channel and they like all of the martial arts action, but then we do something that isn't martial arts and then they're like, what is this, right? And they just leave, right? And they don't check up on us ever again. So
Aw.
that's kind of the problem too.
Yeah.
But I think also, for certain content creators, it's the numbers that really kind of dictate what
What they
success
do.
is.
And that's, see, the numbers are always pressure. That's really what
Yeah.
numbers really mean to me because I'm not a math person. But honestly, I see, oh, got to have numbers, and it's a turnoff. Because that's
Yeah.
not really what you're going in for. You're thinking, I'm
Right.
going to create something, and then people are going to like it or not. And once you turn that into, oh, just think about the numbers, it's kind of like I don't
Right, because like
Yeah.
some people don't even realize it on YouTube. Like most of the users on YouTube are like 13 years old or younger, right?
Yeah.
So like you have those numbers, and obviously, if your content is much more easily digestible for um, less experienced minds, then yeah, definitely like they would like it, right? But with us, with our Patreon, like yeah, we only get like at most like 1,000 or something, like views, but most of the time it's just like 300 or something. But those people that that become our patrons, like we know like a good chunk of those people that watch or
Yeah.
that
You're gonna
like we
get more out of that than you are gonna get anything out of YouTube and Google, for God's sakes.
right.
Yeah. But like
It's
our
it's a trade-off, right?
subscribers our subscribers, they're not numbers to us.
Exactly.
Or, whereas like with us, we actually like know people by name. We have conversations with them, and it's like they just tell us their day, what they've been up to, or like, oh, they haven't checked their channel in a bit, but they just kind of check in, or we check in on them, and it's like it's nice because now we have this community, and it only got closer during the pandemic because
Yeah.
it's just like, great, we're in quarantine. What do we do? All right, cool. Let's like create like a community. Let's like encourage like our subscribers, our fan base to look at other indie filmmakers, and you
Right.
know,
And some of
it's
our
it's that.
and some of our patrons also help me out with like, hey, like I have problems with like photography, and some of them are much more, better photographers, so they help me with that because in turn that helps me with filmmaking as well, right?
Right.
So it's a good. It's nice to have that community that to help, to fall back on and ask like, hey, what can I do to make this better? And some of them are much more knowledgeable than we are in filmmaking. And they're like, hey, yeah, dude, you could do this. You could try doing this. And I'm like, oh, that's amazing. I never thought about that. So
That's yeah, that's the
yeah,
whole key right there. It's the community.
yeah,
Because that's how that's how things that's so storytelling is the biggest part of the community because people don't feel connected or trust each other until they share their stories with each other.
yeah,
And so that to
yes,
me is the part that builds the community is always the stories, but to me the stories is the most central thing we have on the planet. Even after we're gone, the stories will
right.
continue.
Exactly. I think that's what we really are about, though. I mean, granted, most of our stories are very, um, like small town
Yeah.
like ideas because
Yeah.
of the resource we have. But then I think that's what makes it much more closer
Yep.
to like who we are, because like I'm writing from the heart, and sometimes like I ask stuff and like, hey, what are your thoughts on this? And her, when she explains stuff like, oh, I get it, right? And that's how we really kind of connected, because like I think our backgrounds were very much close to certain things, and we like the same things, and so our stories kind of match up, and we were just telling the stories that we want to tell, you know
And that's
and I
so
think that's,
important
yeah,
to us, all of us.
right,
I mean, the whole point of it is in my view that like I was saying earlier, it's like if everybody shared their stories through filmmaking, I just think we'd have a better opportunity to really connect with people because we've
Yeah.
seen, without naming or pointing at anything, how people's communication skills can really hurt the society because they really have weak communication skills. But when you are working on a film, that's not just blurting things out. That's not just writing something up and hitting send. You know what I mean? Um,
right, right,
it takes over every fiber inside you, in your mind, and what you feel. And I think that's a very powerful thing that only the powerful people who have become powerful, namely because of that power that they own to tell the story, which is our stories, right? Let us tell our own
right.
stories.
Yeah, you said it exactly how I was thinking. That's actually pretty good.
Wow, that's because
Yeah.
I was reading your mind. I have this app.
Oh,
Same wavelength.
right.
Well, that's why I think the attraction, when I read that quote, I was like, I got to get these guys on the podcast. And that's also a good excuse, to get to know you, you get to know me, and, we'll be friends because
Yeah.
we share that. And I'd love to bring you into the community. Would love to have you guys in San Diego. I think you
Oh,
would
that would be
enjoy the
amazing.
heck out of it. Just try not
Been
to
a while.
have too much fun. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, yeah. So all right. So is there anything we always share in the notes? Everything that, well, not everything. We do a summary, but we also share links, and how to follow you guys. We want to share your, all your social media, your YouTube, your website. We'll have a link for that first video, the Zorro. Wait, what was it called? Hold on.
The
The
Legend
Legend of
the
No Budget Zorro.
Yeah.
Episode 1, and then you'll be hooked.
I hope so.
I was also gonna say the sound effects are amazing. They remind me of the spaghetti westerns.
Yeah, that's a lot of research. And I spent a lot of time with sound design. I'm sitting there like I have my swords and I'm banging it
Yeah.
to like get like the specific sounds.
I
Or like that
bought
old
a
school-
knife, a huge, I don't know what you call it, knife. Only because I love the sound that it does on the kitchen counter. It goes, shoo. It's just so cool. It
Just be careful.
Oh, I'm horrible with a knife, by the way. Every time I go
my
to cook
gosh.
something where I got to chop, and I love chopping. It's like meditative or something.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then when I chop something, I'm like, oh my God, please tell me I did not chop the whole thing through on my own hand. Yeah, I'm horrible. I'm always walking around with Band-Aids because I'm horrible with knives. But I love them. We have this love-hate relationship.
We need to get you on one of our one of our productions, and we'll make you some crafties.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you give me a sword? Can't you just trust me with a sword? Awesome. Well, see, now I made them crack up, so I think this is a good way to end.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think so. So listen up for these guys. One last word for you guys. Don't say just get out there and do it. One last word of inspiring
okay.
advice for our listeners. Start with Stephanie and then with you, Joey.
Okay. If you guys are on the fence, or if you guys are hearing people saying like you can't do it or anything like that, just push on through, because the only person that you really need to please is yourself. And as long as you're happy at the end of the day, I think that is like the most important thing. Because when you're in this industry, everyone has their opinions. The only one that matters is yours.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah.
That's very that's like the heart. That's just the thing that I would usually say. But I guess now I got to do the brain part.
You got to do
of-
your
of- of-
own.
of- Okay, so I think this is at the same time though. Like you guys still have to practice, right? I think the one thing that we do in martial arts, the thing that we say, especially in combat martial arts, is drillers make killers. That means that you have to practice. You can't just wait to be inspired. You have to be disciplined to show up. Make that, like, practice some shots on your phone. Do some, storyboarding, just like little tiny stories, right? Just make a story about anything, like eating a bowl of cereal. Make that into the most cinematic thing that you could do with your phone. And it's all of those little tiny practices, those films that you make for yourself that no one ever has to see, is what builds you to make your masterpiece of a film. And it just builds up to that. So yeah, drillers make killers. Small steps make long journeys. That type of stuff.
I love it. You guys, you just had some of the best advice in martial arts and filmmaking. I have no idea how they did that, but hey. Hey, you guys got to watch their films, follow them on social media, welcome them to the mobile filmmaking community, and don't forget, make your movie, because we're opening for the International Mobile Film Festival in San Diego.
Ooh, what? Hey, submit your films, guys. Get out there and shoot it.
That's right. Whether it's on a stick or not, doesn't matter. Movie on a stick. Hey.
DIY drone shots, man.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Say goodbye to our listeners.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Please check us out.